and you can order that book. It's the first history of Alabama ever written, and it was published, I think, in the 1830s or 1840s. And he interviewed a lot of the people in there. His history was criticized because he didn't put footnotes, in there.
What are footnotes?
Well, footnotes is like when you
See something,
reference a
right?
source. Like if you reference a source,
Oh,
like
okay.
and down at the bottom it'll say history of Alabama, Giuseppe, 1947, page 10 through 15. But he knew the people; they were still living, and so he didn't footnote it because he was doing actual interviews. So you should check that out.
Okay.
You might find out a lot more about your people.
Hey, can you repeat what you said Hernando de Soto seen?
Okay, Hernando de Soto was one of the conquistadors from Spain. He was looking for gold. All of the Spanish were looking for gold. Cortez went to California and Mexico, and they found gold there amongst the Aztecs and the Incas. Well, de Soto had seen crude maps of the Gulf Coast line down around what is now Mobile and New Orleans, Louisiana, down there in the Delta. And so he parked his ship in Pensacola, and he and his men foraged across what became the panhandle of Florida and then up into what became Alabama later, and all the way up to the top of the state. And then he died, and most of his men died too, but 2 survived, and they built a raft, and they came all the way back down on the Mississippi River, and they ended up in Spain 2 years later. They found a ship in Pensacola, and they were able to get back and tell their story. But one of his favorite people was this African that who was a freedman. He was a free man, and he was with De Soto's expedition, but he got sick, and they had to leave him behind. But he got well, but he ended up living there amongst the Indians, and within 15 years, they had intermarried. And so you had Chickasaw Indians who looked like you. Isn't that cool?
That is
I just think it's cool.
So, like,
I think it's cool.
he was a free African, like an African like me, in Alabama in 15. How was he free?
1532.
How was he
There was
free?
no slavery. Spanish didn't believe in slavery.
Oh, so he didn't come with the Europeans. He came with the
No,
Spanish.
he came with the Spanish.
Oh, so those were his friends.
That's right.
And when you say
DeSoto,
Spanish, do you mean like
DeSo-
Portuguese and those people?
Well, De Soto was from Spain,
Okay.
and he was probably from North Africa.
Wow, like Ethiopia and
Yeah,
that
from
part.
North Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
They
he
said
and
like
De Soto became like brothers.
They said they couldn't
Do
tell
they know his
the
name?
Indians, the Indians here are Africans apart.
Because I guess he intermingled with.
Yeah, he
and
married.
He had
He
kids.
married and had
And so
kids.
they just kept coming out
Yeah.
darker, but
Yeah.
with Indian
Well, he
hair.
had
and
Indian
stuff.
characteristics and African characteristics.
Wow. Like
Which-
you might come out looking
Which
African,
later,
and I come out
later
looking
they came to be
Indian.
called mulatto.
Mulatto, the black
Mulatto.
mix.
Much later.
Like you, yeah.
That's a
That's
white
a new
man's
term.
thing.
Yeah, that's
To
a
mulatto, like,
mulatto is like black and white
yeah, I
mixed
got a
together.
uncle, great uncle who was named Mulatto, but his census now is a like,
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Well,
So interesting.
that's a great history you have, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah,
Thank
but you
you.
should check that book. It's by the man's name is Pickett. I can't remember his first name. But you can find it online. It's not an expensive history, but it is incredibly detailed. You'll love it because it talks all about the Chickasaws, where they came from, the Choctaws, and the Cherokee and the Creek in Alabama.
Okay.